Hola, welcome to episode 238 of the Mamas con Ganas podcast. I want to talk today about something deep, and that's chasing worthiness. How we go about our lives trying to prove our own worthiness to ourselves, and how we can get trapped into thinking that our worth is tied to something that we can earn instead of understanding that we're worthy just because. And I wanted to speak on this subject and give you a little bit of context as to what I've been going through and what has made me bring this subject. And I know I haven't been on the podcast for, it's been a hot minute, guys. It's been a hot minute since I've been on the podcast, but this subject has sort of like hit me like a train, and the downloads and the things that I'm understanding about this have come at such a deep level, and I feel it so profoundly in my body that I said I have to share with my audience, why I want to talk about this and why it's so important for women. Because this past year has been so intense, guys. I'm going to let you know I have not been on the podcast, not for lack of activity in my own house and in my own life. It's been quite a ride. I think all of us have gone through quite a ride. 2025, 2026, it's only been 2.5 months. It feels like it's been a whole year with so many things that are happening around the world that I know are affecting us at a profound level, particularly us women. We are these beautiful beings that feel so much. And I think sometimes we don't realize how beautiful that is, the fact that we feel with such depth. For I think months last year, I was contemplating, I'm going to be honest with you, I was contemplating not doing the podcast anymore because I wasn't finding the time or the moment. It was not syncing with my life, and I kept thinking I need to just stop doing the podcast because I don't have time for it. There were a million reasons for me to say, okay, let's just close this chapter of my life. I ended up being shown over and over that it wasn't time to finish it, that it wasn't the moment to close that chapter of my life. If anything, what I've been shown recently has been that I need to speak more, that I need to be bolder, more courageous with my voice, and talk about things that I really care about, and be more authentic and vulnerable and brave with my audience. And so it's been a very intense year, and I come back with this subject because I think as women, worthiness is something that we were told when we were young, that it's tied to our youth, to our beauty, maybe to how smart we are, to how good we are in school. As we get older, then we're taught that it's tied to our productivity, our fertility, and our ability to make babies. And sometimes even we're told that it's tied to our ability to find a partner and get married, have a house. We tie our worthiness to all these things, right? And then one day we realize it's all bullshit. And I think literally that this is one of the things that has been shown to me very clearly in my 40s. So the 40s is it's a very interesting time in a woman's life, because I'm 46 now, so I'm going to be 47 in April. But when I turned around 40, I was starting to have these private conversations with my girlfriends about us starting to notice that the attention that we were getting in general, in public and anywhere, was changing. We could feel that there was something shifting. And it was this conversation that I had with several of my very close girlfriends that I felt very close to, that I felt like it was almost like this hush hush conversation of, are you noticing too that you're not getting, like, am I the only one? But I feel like I'm not getting hit on as much as I used to. And there was like a little bit of a panic It was a panicky conversation that I was starting to have with my girlfriends. Like, oh my God, we're starting to get old. The men aren't paying as much attention to us anymore. Like when I go to the grocery store or in general, the male gaze is changing. And for a woman in the beginning, when this starts like disappearing and we start feeling like our desirability starts waning, we can fall into this a little bit of a panic, right? Because that's one of the things that they've told us our whole lives that's linked to our worthiness. So when we start losing that edge or whatever you call it, it can feel like a panic. And I remember very clearly having this conversation in my early 40s with my girlfriends, or with some of my girlfriends, right? And it was like, I'm telling you, it was like a conversation that was very hush hush. You know, you start thinking about like, how do I stay looking young? So that's like your first go to is like, what can I do to keep looking young, right? So you start discussing all like the kind of things that people start discussing when you're in this stage, like the Botox and do I need to do this and do I need to, it's like, you know, it starts going there. But then as time moves on, you realize that no matter what you do to try to stay looking young, the inevitable reality is that I'm going to age and everybody's going to age. And so you start, and I don't want to say it's a giving up, right? Because I feel like it's great to get, for myself, for example, I love to get facials and things. I love to make myself still look young. I feel like it makes me feel good, right? But you start to realize that which once gave you this sense of worthiness on the outside, or that approval that you used to get from other people, will never come back. And when you realize that you'll never be able to have that approval again from social media or men or society, then something else happens. And this is something that's so incredible. And this happened to me, this shift, and I don't know where you're at in your stage. Maybe you're older than me, you've already gone through this, or maybe you're younger than me and you're thinking, oh shit, I'm going to go through what Valentina is talking about. But I can say, I'm going to tell you some good effing news, guys, for all my ladies. Once the panic resides and it just leaves your body and you realize, oh, that approval that I used to get just for being young, just for being pretty, or just for being whatever. I mean, you put the label to it because maybe your worthiness comes, maybe, you might hear me and think, oh, well, Valentina's being superficial. I've never tied my worthiness to that. But whatever you're tying your worthiness to, if for some reason one day you can no longer have that label for that and no approval, no matter how hard you try, does that make sense? Like if you can no longer get that from what you used to get it for, the next thing that happens instead of a panic is freedom and liberation. And let me tell you, it feels so good. Because on the other side of panic is liberation. The liberation of like, well, if no matter what I do, I can't get the approval of society or social media or men anymore for something that I once had, then now I'm just going to be myself and I'm going to say things how I really feel, because no matter what I do, I'm not going to get approval anyways. And then you hit this phase, and it's one of the things that I've realized in my 40s that like, wow, that's no wonder women in midlife are categorized as, we're categorized as Karens. We're called Karens. We're categorized as annoying. We're categorized as bitchy. We're categorized as, and it's so funny because you get to this age and now I'm like, no wonder, because we no longer care for approval. And the only person we're chasing approval from now on is ourselves. If we are to let go of that neediness of approval from others. Because I know that not everybody gets there, but I'm telling you, once that panic resides and you just like accept, I'm going to get older, it's going to happen. So now I might as well live life in my terms. Be authentic, really authentic to myself. Really say what I feel. And no longer tie my worthiness to anything anybody else says. So this episode is dedicated to anyone who's feeling like they just can't seem to feel like they're enough. This episode is for anyone who's tying their worth. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, doesn't have to be tied to your youth or your beauty. It could be tied, like if you think your worth is tied to your productivity or the amount of money that you make, or the fact that if if you found a husband or not, or whatever. If it's tied to anything external, this episode is dedicated to you, because I'm here to tell you nobody can take away your worth. And you don't have to earn your worth. You're worthy just because. And there's a lot of things that are happening in our world right now that I think as women have us really fired up. All of these release of the Epstein files, the war that's going on the other side of the world. We feel it. I know I've been feeling it. And part of what I've wanted to do is literally hide in a cave. That's what it makes me feel like sometimes. Hiding in a cave with my family, my husband, my children, and like, can I just like hide? Is this really the world that we are living in? I had this breakdown literally last night in bed with my husband. I cried for like half an hour straight. And my husband was so gracious to just hold me for half an hour. I was literally spewing what was coming out of my mouth. I think was like every frustration of every thought. It was not linear either. It came from all different directions, because it was almost like this accumulation of all these things I've been holding back. But at the end of the day, I told my husband, I'm like, I was crying. I told him, if little Valentina, like little 6-year-old, 7-year-old Valentina, could see what was happening with the world at 46 years old, she would be so disappointed. Because somehow I thought that life would be better by 2026, that the world would be a better place. And what's actually happening right now is this unraveling of, I think, horrific disclosures that are being made in the world. We are seeing countries crumble, systems crumble, religions crumble, like institutions. It's insane. But I don't want to end with that, in that sadness, because I know that behind all this, and this is due to the spiritual awakening that I've gone through in the past 2 years, behind what seems to be total calamity and catastrophe and breakdown is the building of the new earth. And what's coming is beautiful. And I do feel that. But I would be lying to you if I didn't sometimes have these very human moments where I feel very sad for humanity. And the reason why I'm not stopping my podcast is because I keep getting subjects that I want to talk to women about, that I want to raise awareness about with my women, because I love the sisterhood. Oh, I'm going to get emotional here, guys. I have always felt a very strong connection to my sisters, to women. Like I've always had good relationships with women. I've always had a lot of faith in women, and I will not stop. And this, I have 3 boys, guys. I don't have daughters. I have 3 boys. So the fact that I have a podcast for women when I have 3 boys, and of course I worry about the masculine too. But the fact that I do this for women, like, I think really speaks to my heart, and it speaks for my mission. And this episode, I'm doing it to reconnect with my mission, because maybe I haven't been able to do it in the best way, but my mission with Mamas con Ganas has always been to connect with women and to raise the feminine frequency and to give a voice to women. We need to be each other's best allies. We need to be each other's best friends. in the collective. Because honestly, this world will be saved through us if we take that seriously. I really do believe it. That's how much I love women. I believe in us so much. And this year has been such a testament. This past year and a half, actually 2 years, I would say since 2024, the beginning, I had a huge spiritual awakening, which I will talk about uh, further in other episodes. That awakening happened through sisterhood and the beautiful friendships that have begun to flow into my life after like April of 2024 has been incredible. I didn't think that it was possible to develop such close friendships with women in adulthood. And my mind has been completely blown away by the by the beauty of the friendships with women that I have been able to have in the past 2 years. They have filled me up. They have filled up my tank, my reservoir, my fuel. These women have like literally like fueled me up to keep going, to keep Mamas con Ganas going. And now going back to the topic of our conversation and why I think this is so important, chasing worthiness, is because I feel like particularly as women, we need to stop chasing our worthiness. We need to understand that we're worthy no matter what. Just for breathing, for breathing. Guys, you know the actor of Dawson's Creek, James Beek, you know, who recently passed away. Ooh, that was really hard for me. I remember I used to be a big fan of Dawson's Creek at one point, and I loved that show. But I saw a reel, one of the final reels that he posted on his Instagram, and it had to do with this subject. And he was talking about how his identity and his worth was, you know, tied in the beginning to his identity as an actor, and then afterwards it was tied to him being a husband, and then it became tied to being a father. And when he got cancer, he got to a moment where the cancer was debilitated him to the point where he was in bed and he couldn't get up, and he was really trying to analyze like his worth. It was a very touching reel because he said, wow, like I can no longer place my worthiness on my ability to act or be a husband or a father or even be a caretaker. So now that I'm not any of these things and I don't have any of these labels, how can I feel worthy? And he was coming to the realization that he was worthy just for breathing, just for being. And I felt like it was such a profound realization. And I said to myself, wow, like I don't want it to take for me to have to go through a disease like that, or for something else to happen in my life for me to understand and realize that I'm worthy no matter what. And I know that I'm not alone in, you know, having tied at some point or sometimes forgetting that my worth is, it's just something that comes from God. It's not something that anybody can take away. And it's definitely not something that I have to prove to myself or earn, even though I might forget at times, right? So I'm inviting you to think about all the places and all the labels that you might have that you tie to your worthiness. And imagine peeling away those layers and those labels, and even just say to yourself, I'm worthy just because I'm worthy. I had a really interesting moment the other day because sometimes this subject creeps up on us without us even knowing. And I had a moment where I was very tired in the week and I was fighting with myself. You know, those moments where you're fighting with yourself because you're really tired, but you're like, but no, but I have so many things to do. But your body's like, yeah, but I'm tired. And your mind's like, but no, I have so many things to do. So I was fighting with myself whether I should take a nap or not. And finally, like my body, like my body was just asking me, Valentina, like you're very tired. You hardly got to sleep at all last night. Like let's take a nap. And in my head, in my rational mind, I was like, no, like Valentina doesn't take naps in the middle of the day. And this is ridiculous. And you have so many things to do, blah, 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 blah. And I literally, like when I laid down in bed to take a nap in the middle of the day, I went to sleep telling myself, I'm worthy of this. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. Because sometimes we tie our worth to productivity or to things like that, and it creeps up on us when we least expect it. And I'm sort of confessing these moments where it's happened to me so that perhaps you can see when it might happen to you, when you might be attaching your worthiness to something that absolutely has nothing to do with your worthiness. 2 years ago, it came up, the subject. This is another confession. I was trying to sell my old apartment, and I realized that I was tying my worth to the sale of my apartment, or rather, the price that I was going to be selling my apartment for. And it was very interesting because it was also one of these things that creeped up and I didn't even realize. And I was like, wow, I'm tying. And it literally came from a meditation that I did. Because I was having a very hard time selling this apartment, and I didn't understand what the block was from. It was a beautiful apartment. I didn't understand why I was having such a hard time selling it until I recognized and I realized, because I felt like God wanted to show me that I was tying my worth or my sense of worthiness to the price of this apartment. And the moment when I recognized it and I acknowledged to myself that my worth was not tied to the price that I sold the apartment for, everything came online and I was able to sell it, no problem. But it's so interesting how we can fool ourselves into thinking that our worth comes from anything except from just being. So there you go. So think to yourselves, is there anything that I'm attaching my worth to that's a label that's really just ridiculous and I'm not even realizing it? But inside, it's making you feel maybe less than. And then release it. Acknowledge it and then release it. Because God knows that this lesson for me has been such a beautiful learning lesson. Not easy, but it's been a beautiful process. And it's also been a great sense of liberation. Because once you recognize that these things that you're giving so much value to are really not worth that much, and your actual worth, which is basically limitless, and you can't put a price tag on, nothing can take away that from you. It can be such a sense of liberation. So that's why I wanted to do this episode. I want to thank you for being a listener on this podcast episode. If any of the messages resonated with you and if you took anything good from it, please share this episode with your friends or anyone who might need to hear the message. Know that you are worthy, mamacita. I love you. And if you have any comments or questions, go to mamasconganaspodcast.com/238, mamasconganaspodcast.com/238. That is it. Yay. I feel like, like the song Like a Virgin. I felt like I just lost my virginity again because I haven't done the podcast in such a long time. Yeah. It's like coming online again. There you go. Hey, it's Valentina Azara. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing to our motivational channel. If you have any questions or comments, visit our website at mamasconganaspodcast.com or follow me on social media at Mamas Con Ganas. And remember, don't be a mama con drama. Let's be mamas con ganas.